let's start with what they have done, which is just Mason Plumlee, adding him. But we haven't really talked about what he potentially brings, what the logic was behind that. So, Kevin, I'll have you go with that. Just what do you think of the signing, and what was the logic behind it from the Suns' perspective?
Kellan and I have talked about this quite a bit on our podcast. The on-off numbers for Jusuf Nurkic were staggering last year, and you can think about Nurk what you want, but when he was off the floor, it was bad. When he was on the floor, they knew what to do. You could say he gets played off the floor, but he's trying. He's in the right spots. He's just a smart basketball player. You're basically replicating that with a different body type in Mason Plumlee, and I think that's the thing that, like, reliability is what you want out of your center position in this day and age. And, like, look, the block numbers may not be there. He's older. He's coming off he had a knee injury, I believe, last year or something. So we don't know where he's at physically anymore, but he's a smart basketball player, can move the ball, will still be a threat to roll to the rim. So I just think it's about reliability. You know what you're getting. You can trust him right off the bat.
It was a difference of 13 points per 100 possessions, which that will swing some basketball games for sure. I'm just mad that of the 36 random signings we covered in the late teens of the 2010s and the worst times of Suns basketball, that Marshall Plumlee couldn't have been one of them, so they could have pulled off the trifecta
the Plumlee
of Plumlees. But that's just a boy's dream that didn't get realized. Maybe Marshall Plumlee's still hanging around.
Is there Zeller hope here? There could be Zeller hope.
Yeah, there's got to be.
So that's what I was trying to
Plumlees.
figure out. Like in the Taylor Griffin, Zoran Dragic lore of taking the worst brother, did they already have the worst brother? Mason had the better career, right? This is the riveting content that Aaron Maloney, our producer, wants us to hear talk about on the air right
She
now.
hasn't cut your mic yet. She's not going
Which Plumlee brother is better? We'll tell you next on Arizona
Miles
Sports.
was sneaky very good that one season here.
That was 2013-14 when they won 48 games. The difference for
Kevin's
me...
selling Miles Plumlee way too hard for me
I
today.
know. I'm sorry.
The difference for me, Kevin, is they made a choice here in skill set, and what we talked about a lot on the pod and what we've talked about a lot on the air the last couple of weeks is that with center, they could have looked at what is going on in the finals and added either a lob threat or a floor spacer at the 5 to sort of mix it up, because we know Jusuf Nurkic does neither of those things. Maybe he'll take more threes next year, but Plumlee will absolutely not take threes next year. Get ready for the curveball that is his free throws, by the way, which are going in right now, which is very, very fun, but he does the one-handed thing. It's kind of fun. With his game, I think the difference for me is, can he provide something a little bit better than Jusuf Nurkic? Can he move a little bit more defensively? Again, he's 34. He's going to turn 35 in March. We'll see. But can he finish better? In his career, he has been historically a very good finisher, around the 70% mark, 75% mark. Those are DeAndre Ayton numbers. Last year went down to 66. He had the injury. If you watch him on tape last year, not moving as well. But I think you're mainly just looking for, one, the stability, but two, I think you'd just like him to be a better finisher than Nurkic around the rim, right?
Yeah, and I think he will be to some degree. I mean, it's not a high bar necessarily, but yeah, I think when you get into the nitty-gritty of this, it asks you the question of, okay, is he going to play over Oso Ighodaro? Probably. Is that redundant now? And then when you look at the even wider picture, it's like and they said they needed shooting. They haven't really gone out and got shooting. They need defense. Yeah, you can say that. But rim rolling and shooting just haven't been super addressed so far, and there's not much space to do that, just based on what we know, who we think's coming back, the space. So they're going to have some roster questions, but I think they're still sticking with, we just need guys we can rely upon, because you look at last year's group of free agent signings, and it just wasn't... it turned out you couldn't rely on any of them almost, they traded them all away. So I think it's just about get reliable basketball players. You'll work with it. Maybe your roster's not the most beautiful, perfect. We have all these different skill sets, but we're going to trust a larger chunk of guys on this roster compared to last year.
Kevin Zimmerman's joining us, and I'm not even joking. Tyler Drake just walked out that door, so now nobody's running.
Now no one. We're just...
So if the Suns are going to trade for Bronny and LeBron, this is the time.
It's up to Danny, and he definitely won't do his job, so we're screwed there.
Kevin, you alluded to this, and we were talking about it earlier. We only know for sure that they really only have one open roster spot. They could have up to 3, and obviously you got the G League now where you can do some developing. But as far as players at the NBA level, what's next? Are we still considering a point guard? Or that would make sense, right, for the final roster spot, or at least one of them.
Yeah, you're good at center. I think you could sell me on a wing if like, I think Kyle Lowry's the one for me. I'm like, yep, if you get him or Monte Morris, you're in a really good spot at point guard. So I think those two guys, just stabilizing force, take pressure off the guys. Again, it might be 15 to 20 minutes a game. That's all you need, though. If you can tell me if there's a good wing, you can sell me on that. But I honestly, there's not anyone off the top of my head who's just going to make me think, oh, yeah, you're playing over Royce O'Neal, Booker Beal, sharing minutes with Grayson Allen. Like, there's not much there, but I could be wrong in missing people, Kellan. Kellan's going through his brain.
Well, I was thinking, so last year we did If of the Fifth, where we wrote this series going into the year because we didn't know who the fifth starter was going to be, and we were looking at all of the possibilities. I think the theme of this year, now looking at what the roster is going to be the ninth of the ninth. I don't know how to say that, but Booker, Beal, Allen, Durant, Nurkic, those are your starters. Maybe Royce O'Neal starts, maybe he doesn't. There's 6 guys right there. Plumlee's your 7th guy, and then the point guard is going to be the 8th guy. Now you've got this 9th spot where you have Oso Ighodaro, Bol, Ryan Dunn, David Roddy, Nasir Little, and for now, we're assuming Josh Okogie and Damian Lee are back. Maybe the recent moves change that. I think that Lee is someone they definitely want back. Okogie, I'm not so sure if the fit is there for another non-shooting wing. Again, out of all of those names that I mentioned, who jumps out to you the most as the 9th guy? We're not counting the veteran point guard. We're not counting O'Neal, and we're not counting Plumlee. So again, that's Ighodaro, Bol, Dunn, Roddy, Little, and Lee. Free agent wing X. Like, there's going to be a 9th guy, potentially a 10th guy in the rotation. It's going to be one of those guys.
Dunn, just because I think there's a spot for if Okogie's not back, and that's why I think it's redundant to bring Okogie back at this rate. Dunn's there. Honestly, Bol is there because he can play the 4 and shoot. And if you, again, I think they got to prioritize shooting at this rate. And if you can stick him, whether he's the 5 or the 4, and he's spacing the floor, I think that's a really interesting twist because I'm curious how Budenholzer will use him compared to last year.
I want to get to this real quick before the break because I thought you guys did a great job on the podcast breaking down the draft specifically. With
Did you leave 5 stars on Apple Podcasts
or
or
services?
5
stars long ago.
Thanks, man.
Long
we really
ago.
appreciate it.
We don't do double votes here.
No, this is strictly 1 5-star, and that's it. Kellan was higher on Ighodaro than I expected. Not that I think he's going to be bad. But Kevin, your thoughts on Dunn and Ighodaro, just like how much do you expect them to impact this team this year?
Yeah, I think they went, again, after guys, maybe they don't have the perfect skill set, but good, solid, smart basketball players who are going to impact it. Like, Dunn is going to impact a game, diving on the floor, chasing down a block from behind, that kind of thing. Ighodaro, I think, can just move the ball so well at center, and he's going to be a really interesting prospect to see develop because he has this weird, like, every hook shot type, like, can get a shot off. If that translates, it's going to be fun just to watch him score efficiently. But I think there's a place for both of them. Again, like, if you're 3 deep at center now already, you're in a pretty good spot, and it gives you options based on matchups and that sort of thing. So I like what they do with the class, like, for the value, too, of getting extra picks, moving down 28 and 40. Like, those are guys who have NBA skill sets to me.
It really does seem like they've addressed everything except point guard, and like you said, maybe more shooting.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.